Long before 1933, the year he rose to power, Adolf Hitler wrote, "With the help of a persistent propaganda, even heaven can be represented to the people as hell, and the most wretched life as paradise." From the beginnings of the Nazi Party in the early 1920s until the fall of the Third Reich in 1945, Hitler and his propaganda minister, Dr. Joseph Goebbels, directed an intricate propaganda campaign steeped in secrecy and based on lies and manipulation. The implementation and impact of the Nazis' propaganda machine was as calculated and as deadly a force as their Panzer or Luftwaffe strikes. Propaganda was essential in bringing a dictator to power, a nation to war, and a continent to its knees. One of history's most heinous couplings, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels, began with two frustrated artists struggling to find acceptance. Rejected as a painter in early 20th century Vienna, Hitler found solace in that city's rampant German nationalism and anti-Semitism. When World War I erupted, Hitler fought passionately, fueled by his love for Germany and his hatred for the Jews. When Germany surrendered in 1918, Hitler was devastated.
The catastrophe of the loss of the First World War, in which he had served at the front with distinction, was a trauma which affected him profoundly. And I believe that when Hitler said, "Had we not put down our weapons at 5 minutes before midnight, we would have won," this is the way he thought, that this was a crime, this was a stab in the back by Jews and other forces on the home front.
Joseph Goebbels had also hoped to fight for Germany in the First World War, but had been rejected because of a crippled foot, the result of contracting polio as a child. He spent the war years earning a doctoral degree in German literature. All of his efforts to get his writings published were rejected, sometimes by Jewish publishers. His already intense feelings of inadequacy and resentment blossomed into rage, much of it anti-Semitic. In 1923, Germany plunged into economic depression and political chaos. For most Germans, it was a time of fear and anxiety, but for Goebbels, it was an opportunity for action.
In 1923, he briefly worked for a bank and could have started a normal bourgeois life. But he left the bank because the work did not amount to what he had imagined for himself. Anybody else would have been happy about having a job at a time of such economical hardship, but he was worried about other things.
That same year, Adolf Hitler led his recently formed ultra-right-wing National Socialist Party in a failed revolution. He was sent to prison where he wrote his political testament, Mein Kampf. He dedicated 2 entire chapters to expanding and refining his ideas about propaganda. As Hitler struggled to rebuild a political force, now renamed the Nazi Party, Goebbels was searching for a venue for his own radical ideas. He found support in National Socialism, which embraced his previously rejected literary talents. His skill at inflammatory, often anti-Semitic writing and charismatic public speaking quickly earned him Hitler's admiration. They met in 1925.
He was longing for a great man, a leader, one that would lead Germany out of its misery. He was thinking of a second Bismarck. The words, "Bismarck stand up," can be read in his diary. And when he met Hitler for the first time, he immediately knew. This is the man who I will follow unconditionally, and whatever I can do to help him to power, I will do.
One of the first positions Hitler assigned Goebbels was propaganda leader of Berlin, a communist stronghold. There, Goebbels showed his skill in psychological manipulation, turning a small band of street thugs into heroes fighting against the Jewish-controlled press and against the Nazis' political opponents.
When the Nazis marched in Berlin, where they were outnumbered by the Socialists and the Reds many times over, they would sometimes go through a red-infested area, a working-class area, knowing they would be pelted with garbage and have to be surrounded by the police and armored personnel carriers and everything else. This was tremendous propaganda.
When the Great Depression hit Germany in 1929, it left the already fragile nation on the brink of hysteria. Goebbels preyed on this fear, blaming the country's woes on communists, socialists, and above all, the Jews. He proclaimed Hitler the only possible savior for Germany. In an omniscient campaign, Hitler was presented in mythic proportions. In simple, repetitious speech laced with vicious attacks against his enemies and a tone of rising hysteria, Hitler mesmerized his audiences.